Hello, I'm George Alagaya and I'm patron of the Fairtrade Foundation. Now what you're about to see are some interviews that I've done with producers, Fairtrade producers from all around the world, from Pakistan, from Uganda, from Nicaragua, all of them talking about what Fairtrade means to them. And what was really interesting, I think, in the interviews I did was that sure, people were talking about things like the minimum price, about extra pennies or cents in their pockets. But in a sense, now in our second decade of the fair trade movement, the farmers themselves have moved on. They're talking about quality. They're talking about empowering women. They're talking about governance. They're talking about having a say in the chain of business, if you like, from something that's grown on a farm to the finished product. They've moved on, and it gave me really a real sense of what fair trade is achieving. It's helping to skill people, in some cases give them skills that help them have a bargaining power within the whole business chain. I hope you'll find it interesting. So Shergazi, describe for me the kind of an area that you come from and the kind of area that you and your members have to make a livelihood.
We have been in isolation till 1972, before the opening of this Karakoram highway. So we were totally unaware of the rest of the world. The only way was to go to Kashgar through mountain treks. It was very difficult. It was taking almost 2 months. Thanks to Fairtrade that guided us, they linked us to importers like trade crafts like oak farm as well as tropical whole foods.
So Fairtrade, to start with, gave you and your fellow community, gave you a market. What else has Fairtrade given you in terms of, say, capacity building?
Well, the model of Fairtrade is an organizational setup, getting people together and to organize them for a collective marketing, quality improvement, so that the product should, if you don't produce a quality product, nobody is there to buy. So the sense of quality, it came through fair trade. The sense of collectivism, organizational setup, came through fair trade. And in addition to that, the fair trade premium, which is the most important moving factor, or I would say like that, is the most important catalyst to bring people together. The price for dried apricots in Gilgit market was only 35 rupees a kilo, but after we started exporting dry fruits to UK through fair trade, so the price increased threefold. The farmers are getting 120 rupees a kilo. So now they are getting 3 times. It means they are covering their cost, and as well as they are getting additional price.
How important is it that something like the fair trade movement comes to those kind of areas?
The agents, they come to a village and they bargain with the ladies, especially, ladies are always at home. So they buy it at the lowest price. But now there is price guarantee and sustainable market for them. So these are the long-term benefits which can improve their livelihood in the coming years.
You mentioned the ladies in the villages. Has their life changed?
The ladies has to collect apricots from mountains, at least 2 or 3 kilometers far away from their houses, because the houses are in the middle of the town and the orchards are at the bottom of the mountains on slopes. You see, they have to get the apricots from longer distances, putting on their shoulders. But after drying them, they were not even getting the cost of their labor. So this is the most attractive thing for the ladies. In addition to that, there is a sense of entrepreneurship among ladies. So before that, they don't think that apricot is something what we can from what we can make some money to spend on our children's education or health or other purposes. But now people think, oh, it's a precious fruit. Apricots we are producing are the only fair trade apricots in the world.
So Conrad, I know that in the Windward Islands in St. Lucia, being a banana farmer has been a tough business in the last few years. What difference do you think belonging to the fair trade system, the fair trade movement, what difference has that made?
It shows there is someone who cares and someone who willing to share some of the burdens. With fair trade, as though there is he that comes in and be our security, be the farmer's security. You know, that farmer then can rely on fair trade.
Every banana that grows is marketable. What do you just leave these on the ground?
This?
Yeah.
Well, yes. You're more or less in the area where the root zones will more or less feed.
Yeah.
It's not too deep, but it just...
How do the roots spread sideways or
Yes,
do they
it
spread down?
it spreads.
So they go sideways?
Yeah, and they move. Right?
If I, as a shopper, make a change, if I, as a shopper, choose fair trade, what is it that I'm doing?
Well, you have been doing a great work. You are doing a great help. You may not know, but it's very helpful. You help somebody you don't know.
Yes. The reason I put that leaf there. Besides this one there.
You help a community you don't know. You help a country you don't know. So that's marvelous. That's great for you to go and choose fair trade production.
So Silva, you've been involved in fair trade for many, many years. How have you seen the fair trade movement change in the years that you've known it?
I would say I've seen quite a number of changes, quite a number of improvements. One thing is that the democratic processes within the company have been improved. The farmers are able to have a voice in the decision making of their companies due to the fact that fair trade comes about with a number of standards. Standards about democracy, standards about transparency, standards about accountability. And this has gone a long way in improving the governance of our factory and especially company.
Silva, how important is a sense of ownership for a farmer? What does it do for a farmer to know that through the fair trade movement, he or she owns a part of the business?
The farmer gets that responsibility of producing quality.
So do you think that when somebody feels through democracy, through being able to make decisions concerning their workplace, their factory, their tea factory, do you think they work harder, they work better?
They work better. They are more committed to their work, and therefore the quality of the product will be also good. If, for instance, they know that at the end of it all, they are able to get something worth for their energy, I think they'll do even much better. And as for you, a consumer, I would think that you'd also be interested in actually, knowing where your tea comes from, how you are, taking a fair trade product helps the poor people at the end of the supply chain.
How can I be sure, when I buy my fair trade product, how can I be sure that it is going to the smallholder, the small tea grower, and not some head of the organization who's pocketing all the money? How can I be sure?
You can be sure through accountabilities like me being here to tell you the story about what we get through fair trade. You can be sure about knowing how the social premiums that come along the fair trade movement. You can be sure, again, out of the democracy, in deciding what sort of projects these social premiums shall be invested in.
Are you telling me that tea growers themselves decide how the social premium should be spent?
Yes. There are committees which are democratically elected. They represent, the whole farmers. Of course, all farmers cannot be in the same committee, but they are grouped in zones, and these come together. They meet periodically. They make a work plan, make budgets, and decide as to how that money is going to be used. And it is the workers that decide on the fate of the premium funds.
So how important is it that farmers move simply from tending their crop, but start thinking about quality, about moving up the scale of production?
It is not like those days when one would produce anything and take to the market. But now the farmer must know that he must produce something which at the end of the day will be able to get him some fair price. And that's why we have had this shift of farmers thinking that they should have better knowledge of how to look after their gardens, after their tea plants, and finally the product, the leaf.
Give me some examples, give me some idea of what the workers themselves have chosen to spend their money on.
In my situation and in my organization, Mabale Growers Tea Factory, premium money has been spent on improving the livelihood of the communities that live within the tea growing areas. We have had things like opening of community access roads done using social premium money. And we realize that community access roads do not only transport tea, but they are used by the communities to access the market for other products. Getting involved in fair trade, there is capacity building of the extension workers and ultimately the farmers. The farmers are trained of better ways of how to look after the crop. And in so doing, they improve their crop husbandry, which in turn brings about good quality of tea leaves plucked, and therefore good quality of the tea produced, and ultimately good earnings to the factory and ultimately to the farmers.
Sam, at the moment coffee prices are okay, people are making some money, but it wasn't always like that. A few years back, coffee prices collapsed. What was it like for your members?
It was terrible. In 1994, government decided to liberalize the marketing of coffee. So many coffee buyers came in who didn't know much about coffee. So there was a rush or a scramble for everybody getting a coffee. Well, it helped in that, although the price was so low, people were able to get cash and solve their problems. However, the price was 800 shillings, Uganda shillings, per kilo then. So low, so nobody could break even.
Were farmers coffee farmers, when the price collapsed, were they still able to send their children to school? Were they able to pay their hospital bills? That kind of thing? Did it change their lives?
Yeah, it did. It did. It did. And some people who were sick, some of them died because they couldn't be assisted. Because most health centers, when you go there, you have to pay.
How has Fairtrade improved the quality?
Fairtrade brought in sensitization just to educate people or remind them of the things they knew. Everybody who grows coffee knows how to produce good quality coffee, but they had neglected it. Now, seeing that Fairtrade had come in, after sensitization, they did not stop there. They gave them a better price, which enabled them to solve most of their problems. Then on top of that, Fairtrade Foundation gives us a social premium, which social premium is meant to put up projects in the area which we assist everybody, including those who are not farmers. So that has made a big change. The impact it has had in the village, even those who are not interested in producing good quality coffee or going into farming are getting interested.
Now you say fair trade, and the Fairtrade Foundation has made this big difference, but there are lots of other people, including some Ugandan coffee growers, who say actually there's plenty of good coffee that isn't fair trade. What is so special about fair trade?
Well, I don't know whether they're saying the truth. Why is it that now everybody is running around asking farmers, can you give us the same good quality coffee like the one you sell to fair trade? Most people are still processing their coffee in an hygienic way, say drying the coffee on the bare ground, which is no good because the coffee absorbs the earth. And so you may end up getting the earth smell in the cup. But with us, we make sure that we dry coffee on a raised stand, either on a papyrus mat or coffee tray. They call us Gumotindo people, quality people.
So fair trade means quality.
Quality, yeah.
Was there anything that you wanted to say that you haven't said? Any message?
The message I have is I would like to thank all the coffee buyers, the consumers, for the support they have extended to us through Fairtrade Foundation by buying our products. And for those who have been buying our products, I would say, please buy more. To those who haven't started buying Fairtrade products, I would request them to change now, choose and buy products from Fairtrade, especially Gumotindo coffee from Mbale, Uganda.
If you had to give me one example, one personal story that would convince me that fair trade is working, that it is worth me buying a fair trade product, a personal story from someone you know perhaps. Can you give me that?
Sí, bueno, hay tantas historias que contar sobre comercio justo y sobre lo que hace en la vida de cada uno de nosotros. Yo vengo de una familia humilde, de una familia que no tendría la capacidad económica para invertir en mi desarrollo personal. Y lo hemos logrado con la cooperativa en conjunto con Comercio Justo. Eso es una cosa. Yo soy madre de 4 hijos y trabajo en la cooperativa y el cambio es también para mi familia. Por otro lado, también el poder, el empoderamiento que tenemos las cooperativas, el poder ser parte de las estructuras de Flow, el poder ser parte de Fairtrade Foundation y tratar de llevar el desarrollo a nuestras comunidades. Entonces, si yo participo en la junta de Fairtrade Foundation, me va a permitir aportar para que Comercio Justo invierta en el desarrollo de nuestras comunidades.
In all your years with Product Co-op, it's a very successful cooperative. What part has fair trade played in that success?
Para nosotros hay muchos beneficios en la relación comercio justo, de diferentes niveles. Hay beneficios económicos, que son los mejores ingresos que tenemos por vender nuestro café mejor. Beneficios en el desarrollo personal, porque comercio justo permite la mayor participación de los productores y el mejoramiento de capacidades. Entonces nos da otro rol dentro del negocio.
Give me an example of the way your members have been able to acquire new skills as a result of fair trade.
Antes de comercio justo, los productores no tenían la oportunidad de que sus hijos participasen en el negocio del café, ni que desarrollaran capacidades para mejorar su producto. Hoy día los hijos de los socios pueden participar en este desarrollo y tenemos Fátima, que es una catadora que llegó siendo a aprender a catar café en Prodecop y hemos ido desarrollando sus capacidades, llegó a ser catadora nacional y ahora es una catadora reconocida por la calidad de su trabajo.
What is it about fair trade that makes it special, that makes it different from working for some other company?
Decirte una diferencia es un poco difícil cuando hay tantas diferencias. Simplemente comercio justo es un comercio que ayuda a la sostenibilidad de la gente y el otro es un negocio donde alguien gana y alguien pierde. Y comercio justo es un gana-gana. Detrás de cada taza de café siempre hay familias. Entonces esa es la diferencia. Las compañías grandes les interesa el producto. Comercio justo le interesa también la gente, el producto y la gente.